Cook kind of couches this as Chinese economy is in a rough spot, maybe trade wars are contributing to it. You have some other ideas about what might be happening now?
Yeah, trade probably impacts it, but there's something else that's been going on in the Chinese economy, which is there has been a tightening of consumer credit on purpose by the Chinese government. It's not that they thought of it that way. They did a big crackdown on what's called P2P lending, peer-to-peer lending, which was much bigger in China than ever became here in the United States. Thousands and thousands of people, perhaps millions, got involved in peer-to-peer lending. What is that? I'm not getting a good enough return at the bank, so I give my money to this online platform. They're going to lend it to other people, and I get promised returns of something like 20%. Guess what? The Chinese government began a crackdown in spring of last year. Thousands of these things went bankrupt. They crescendoed in July, and then in August, massive protests in Shanghai for people who had lost money, blamed the government. There were many, many arrests. We have the video. We aired it a lot on CNBC at the time. And we now know, there's been reporting that's been done over the last couple of weeks. The FT did a great piece the other day showing that the ripple effect of this has been much more widespread in the middle class than had been previously anticipated or expected.
And is this mostly from people, as you say, who've lost money as lenders to the peer-to-peer, but not the peer-to-peer platforms lending it out for consumers to buy stuff?
No, exactly. People have lost a ton of money as they've gone belly up. Some of them were quite shady, or the regulation got so tough that they couldn't exist anymore.
The FT piece that you're referring to just focused in on a woman who had lost $90,000, all of her savings all the way from college. She had just put a down payment on a car. She's not going to be able to buy that car now because she has no more savings and didn't realize that till after the fact. You can kind of imagine that happening across the board with Chinese consumers.
Right. They interviewed multiple people who've been affected by this, but what's difficult is it's hard to know the exact numbers, right? Because this is part of the shadow banking system in China.
And even if you thought you were getting real numbers from the reports.
Who knows, right? But there's definitely been an impact of some kind. They think it was only, Moody's thinks it was only 3%. Perhaps, of the population that was involved in this, but 14 to 16% of the population is involved in some kind of shadow banking because they can't get a decent enough return at banks, right? Remember, the Chinese banking system is still so undeveloped, and it does a very, very bad job at what banking systems are supposed to do, allocate credit. So now maybe the Chinese will try to stimulate this economy. But when the government does it from top down, what does it end up doing? It ends up subsidizing state-owned enterprises, big favorite industries. The consumer, the woman who lost $90,000, she's not getting any help from some massive infrastructure stimulus.
Or someone else, another consumer who wanted to buy a car, or wanted to buy a house, or wanted to buy an iPhone or something along those lines. I mean, any big-ticket purchase that you're going to make there, it's a lot tougher to get some of those loans.
Absolutely. So when we see the slowdown that we know has happened in the Chinese economy, when you look at what's happened with manufacturing, et cetera, and when you look at sales, car sales, dramatic decline, right? Now China,
look at GM and what's happened to its stock price.
China, Apple talking about the phones in China. I think that we're seeing a much more important effect on the consumer from this crackdown on peer-to-peer lending and other things going on in the shadow banking.
There's a certain muscle memory, though, with investors when they see this stuff happening in China. They say, well, it's time for them to just do one of their big domestic stimulus programs again.
And they're gonna. I have no doubt that that's exactly what they're going to do. Just remember, the transmission mechanism from what they intend to do to getting it down to the street level is extremely difficult.
Michelle, let's say, what if you're, I'm going to tread into this, what if you're an America First type individual, and I'm hearkening back to some of Cramer's comments about Pence's speech and about the ultimate goal of what China wants to do by 2025 or 2030, just worldwide hegemony. I mean, they just conquered the other side of the moon, too. I don't know whether you saw that.
Yeah, they landed on the far side of the moon, yes.
But I am scared.
Which I thought was just an album by...
But yeah, right. Well, that was the dark side. Yeah, but same place, same place. When you see big trouble in Little China, or big trouble in Big China, like this, I don't want to see that in a Schadenfreude type way, but that there's a part of me that almost is like, I want to win in this trade skirmish. I want them to have to.
You're asking me, should we be happy or sad about
because
what's
it's cutting off our
China?
noses? But yeah, can I take any satisfaction that these initiatives are hurting their economy, or is that just the wrong way to think about this?
I don't think of it that way. I think the Chinese have been told numerous times, and they even know it, supposedly, what they need to do to improve their financial system so that it works more efficiently, more evenly.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about coming into the real world in terms of not stealing technology, not forcing companies to play by their rules over there, which allows them to eventually, almost like a Trojan horse, they won't beat us militarily. They will bury us like Khrushchev economically.
See, I guess my point is that I think this kind of thing was going to happen regardless of the trade war.
And by the way,
regardless, because their system is so broken financially.
And the problem is not the crackdown. The problem was that it was allowed to sprout up and have all of these shady, not that shadow banking's a problem, but the idea that these shady finances that people looked and thought, okay, I could put my money here and I can really get these high returns that I'm not going to get elsewhere.
Right. The crackdown, crackdown was not the cause; it was a symptom. Right. The cause is that they have a banking system that doesn't work and forces individuals into these other parts of the market that normally they wouldn't go to, but they're desperate.